GERENetwork.com. This is a GERE Network production.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
Welcome, episode number 26, week 4. Trust the podcast, Buffalo Bills at the Green Bay Packers, powered by Better Live Than Dead and the GERE Radio Network. I am Ryan Wolfe, at WolfeBLTD on Twitter, and as always, just a quick reminder for anybody out there in podcast land, you can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, and even on Spotify. So make sure you subscribe, pay attention to where the podcast is, wherever you listen to it, for the latest and greatest of Trust the Podcast. Today we have a very special guest joining me on the IndyCar Media Hotline. We've got John Cimino, the CEO, head honcho of GERE, the GERE Radio Network. You can follow him at the JC Money on Twitter, and you can listen to him right now here on the podcast. John, how you doing today?
Hey, how's it going? You know, this is my, for those of you, and I will say, Ryan, my boy, the success of this podcast has been tremendous, and a huge compliment to you and Dell last season and Brayton this season so far, as well as the Mafia and everybody that's listening out there, those that are coming over to cross-platform here from my podcast, the FTW podcast, know my history as a pro wrestler and also know my history as a Jets fan, but I assure you all that I am purely analytical. The Homer hat is off. I am ready to talk local Bills football on my personal favorite podcast on my network.
I appreciate you. It's very nice of you to say that. So, hey, without further ado, why don't we just dive in head first? You know, we've got about 20, 25 minutes here, like we always do every week, to talk everything Buffalo Bills. And it was not good this week. After a couple dud performances, the Bills come out, have a great week against Minnesota, and then come out in Lambeau Field in Green Bay and have another dud performance, a 22-0 shutout by the Green Bay Packers. And hey, I guess we can take something for granted. We can't take too much for granted here, but we can take this and put this feather in our cap. Aaron Rodgers not happy with the Packers' performance. I think he might be the only one, because at the end of the day, whether it's a 1, 5, 10, 15, or even 22-point victory, a win is a win. But yeah, John, the Bills did not look good at all this week.
They did not. They very much looked the part of a rebuilding team with a terrible offensive line, which produces an anemic offense behind a rookie quarterback that has the weight of the world on his shoulders, if you will, for Bills fans. But I have to emphasize this as a fan of a team that has a rookie quarterback myself. Not sure if you've heard his name. His name is Sam Darnold. Whatever. He was a big hit after week 1. These are the growing pains. This is, Minnesota was your Detroit Lions. For what was week 1 for me as a Jets fan, that was week 3 for you guys. This is the growing pains, but stick with Allen. He's going to be good. The Bills this offseason, as even a sympathizer, I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do with that extra money and the caps, with the cap space that they're going to have in the offseason. So, yes, while this performance against Green Bay was less than stellar, nothing to write home about, take comfort in knowing that I believe in the process for you guys, and you've seen glimmers of it. So, I mean, it's just kind of par for the course. It's going to be par for the course for the year, Ryan. I hate to break it to y'all. You know?
I mean, it's not going to be good. It's had its good moments. It's had its bad moments. And you know what? Because you mentioned Josh Allen, I will actually producing on the fly. We'll change up the 3 big things. We'll start with Josh Allen, who really was actively struggling on Sunday. He showed some signs of maturity in the pocket. But I mean, 16 for 33, 151 yards, 2 interceptions, 5 rushes for 19 yards. Like I said, he continues to learn on the fly, but those rookie mistakes, the rookie status that he carries with him all year was quite evident. There were some times where instead of making a quick read and getting the ball out, he'd get the ball, the pocket would collapse, and he would try to spin out. I know there was one play in particular where he spun out, and when he spun, there was a defender to meet him and clobbered him. So I think that's something as the season goes on to pay attention to. I mean, we take this podcast one game at a time, 1 week at a time. But we're starting to learn more and more about Josh Allen. He's got a rocket arm. We know that. I know in college they continue to talk about he has problems making the completion percentage is not good, and you really can't teach. You really can't teach that. But if Josh Allen can play a game like he played in Minnesota, where it's such a take advantage of the other team's misfortunes or bad schemes or whatever it may be, you can really make something of it. But I mean, right out the gate, the Green Bay Packers knew exactly what they wanted to do to Josh Allen and knew how they wanted to handle him. And I got to say, they executed it perfectly.
They executed it perfectly, but you have to – I don't want to discredit the Packers' defensive scheme in this whole ordeal. But that said, my ex-stepson's football line for his current team right now, their defensive line in ninth grade football could probably run through the Buffalo Bills' front line on the offensive side. They're terrible. They are terrible. So, yes, the completion percentage was a thing with Josh Allen, but I do feel that if the Bills get a good support system around him, meaning they spend money and they beef up that offensive line, you get an offensive line around him to protect him and eliminate the quick rushes that he has to be or constantly going out of the pocket or anything like that. You get him a really good offensive line, the kid's got something there. Yeah, the intangibles come in time. Spinning around. I mean, Eli, if you remember in 2004, Eli Manning, in his first game and week 9 or week 10 of that season, when he was pulled in to replace Kurt Warner, I mean, one of his first thing, he did the same thing. He turned around and he got blindsided right in the back, just knocked, welcome to the NFL, Eli, kind of hit. Those moments are going to happen. But he doesn't have a good line. So even if he was a Peyton Manning or he was a super sharp mind, like, whatever, that didn't really need to develop, that he was ready to go, he's still going to have a hard time completing raising that completion percentage, because the defense is always getting through that offensive line and getting through to the quarterback. I mean, not just the quarterback too, but you look at the running game, that was anemic. McCoy, what did he have, like 24 yards or something like that? No touchdowns. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty bad up in that front five.
It's pretty bad all across the board. And to talk about LeSean McCoy here a little more, moving on to our second of three big things this week. Sean McCoy's quest for 11,000 continues to slowly but surely tick a little more, almost like a clock, like tick, 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 tick. Not going very far, very fast, but he did return to the lineup on Sunday. Still not seeing a lot of touches, so that's the one thing that is kind of troublesome to me. He ran the ball 5 times for 24 yards. He had 3 receptions for 13 yards. With that, he still remains 29th all time, but now he's 155 yards behind 28th place Otis Anderson with 10,273 rushing yards. Now, John, do you think the Bills need to make a bigger point to get LeSean McCoy involved, or do you think this is part of a bigger plan, whatever that plan may be?
I think what the Bills need to do is decide what the Bills want to settle for with this season. And I mean this because the first quarter of the season is now done, and the Buffalo Bills, yes, they've won 1 game, but they've looked absolutely terrible in all the other 3. I mean, the points, the production, everything has not been good. So at some point you have to ask yourself, do we see ourselves contending with this team that we have? If the answer is yes, then yes, absolutely. Incorporate LeSean McCoy, get him the ball more, because he is a known commodity, a known playmaker. The off the field issues aside, we're not talking about that type of stuff. We're not talking about the human being. We're talking about the football player, and he is productive. He does put up big numbers. He is the man that you can build an offense around to get you over that hump if you feel that you're competitive. If not, and the answer is, we're definitely on a rebuild year, I would try and dangle him. This may not be very popular amongst Bills fans, but I would try and dangle him to other teams that may be running back needy, or a contender that might be willing to, send a higher pick or another known talent or another talent to be groomed or something like that over to Buffalo and get something for LeSean McCoy before he becomes too old and you get nothing for him. He can still offer some team something. And whether that team is Buffalo, if they want that to be the team, then yes, get him the ball more.
And I don't disagree. I mean, if you're not going to keep him, if you're not going to use him, get rid of him. I mean, that's just my thought process here, because you know what? You can go out and you can play Marcus Murphy. I know Marcus Murphy's injured right now, but you can play Marcus Murphy. You can play. I mean, Chris Ivory has looked good in limited space, I guess, this season. I know that he performed very well against the Minnesota Vikings, but again, it's one of those things where I know LeSean McCoy is getting older, and maybe they don't feel like he is going to end up being a big part of this offense, but you need to have a guy out of the backfield who can be dynamic. And I mean, when it was only a couple plays, but when you see LeSean McCoy come out of the backfield and Josh Allen has that opportunity to dump it off to a guy like LeSean McCoy, that's a big thing for a young quarterback who clearly sometimes struggles with reading reads. I mean, it's understandable that happens. Not everyone's going to come out and be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady and be able to pick defenses apart methodically. I mean, it's going to take some time. So with that being said, I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I get it. The offensive line is not good and they can't block very well, so they're playing from behind a lot. But maybe earlier in the game, before it gets out of hand, not only to slow the game down for Josh Allen, but also to get more things open so you can open up more of those downfield passes, because we know Josh Allen has a rocket arm, and we know they love to get the ball downfield. But if the defense knows you're not going to run the ball and you're just going to be bombing it, you're just going to be throwing picks all day long. I mean, that's anybody in the National Football League. So, it's a struggle to continue to watch, because we know what LeSean McCoy can do. We know what LeSean McCoy has done, but for some reason they just continue to not include LeSean McCoy very much in this offense for some reason.
Now, I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be an injury that they didn't report. They don't. Not everything gets reported as much as we want to believe that. Being in our line of extracurricular work here. All injuries don't get leaked out. So it's possible that it could be related to the injury. It's possible that it could also be related to the off the field stuff that's been happening. But really what I'm thinking is he may very well be on the block. And when they are ready, they're ready to announce when he's on the block, when he's on the block, or if he's on the block by week 8 or whatever, he'll be fresh. And that's another thing that they could say is you have a fresh LeSean McCoy. He doesn't fit our offense, but he's great this, great that, great this. If they're going to get, end the season and just say, hey, this is a rebuild year and we're not going to contend. We know this. Get something for him. I want to say that's part of the plan, or at least that's the evil part of the plan. Otherwise, yeah, they're wasting talent and time just letting him sit there. If they're going to be like, we don't know, we're going to go week to week.
Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on this one for sure, because I thought that coming into the season with this LeSean McCoy quest for 11K, by mid-season we'd be moving on to something else at this point. So it's
it's interesting.
This is a good stat to pass along here. I know I've got some stats here for our third big thing, but there's a funny stat that Chris Wessling just passed along at Chris Wessling on Twitter. Josh Allen not only leads the Bills in rushing, he also has more yards rushing than number one receiver Kelvin Benjamin has receiving. So that's very good. And real quick too, I'll let you get back to your LeSean McCoy point, but I do want to point out here, while we're on some stats, we love stats here at Trust the Podcast. The Bills were statistically terrifying last week, and that is our third big thing. John Crick, at John Crick, KRYK, tweeted out, the Bills rank last in the NFL offensively in yards per play, passing net yards per game, passing net yards per play, percentage of passes intercepted, sacks per pass play, and third down efficiency. To go a little further on that last one, at Brad Ryder points out, all right, Brad, R-I-T-E-R, a lot of people from Buffalo follow him. The Bills, on average, are leaving themselves 9.3 yards to go on third down.
That is terrible. Oh,
and then
my
Zach
God.
Cruz, at Zach, KRUSC2, points out on Twitter, the Packers defense forced 7 3-and-outs on Sunday. The Bills actually lost 19 yards over those 7 3-and-outs.
Wow.
So not good for the Buffalo Bills.
No, that is not going to win you any sort of it won't even win you a participation trophy.
Yeah, no, you're not going to get a high five or nothing. You're not going to get an ice cream cone on the way home from the stadium. Nothing. You're going to go watch that tape and you're going to ask, what the hell's your problem? I mean, I got to be completely honest. Full disclosure here. I watched maybe a quarter to half of the game just because at one point in time I said to myself, you know what? I really don't want to waste my time watching this game. Clicked it off for about 20 minutes, turned it back on, and then it was the same score. Wow. And I watched for about 5 minutes and watched Josh Allen go 3-and-out and said, I got better things I could be doing today.
Well, imagine my my boredom and my sheer terror as I am flipping back and forth between Channel 8 and Channel 31 because the Jets were on Channel 31 at the same time. And yeah, I put threw this tweet out on my Twitter at the JC Money, which I know Ryan mentioned earlier, but I'm reminding you at the JC Money. That's my Twitter. But I threw out a tweet and I just simply said, #Bills Mafia, I feel you, and then #Jet Up or something like that. And and it's just like it's like a little factory of sadness, like right between 5.5 hours from each other. Between Rochester,
no, you just can't win. There are some weekends. There will be some weekends, where you watch both teams and you'll say, "Hey, today was a good day." That day was not last Sunday.
No, definitely not.
Now, I guess we've essentially, for lack of a better explanation, I guess we've deflated the balloon. We've let all the air out. We've said what we're going to say about it, and we're going to move on.
Yes.
So moving forward to our look ahead, brought to you by 26 Shirts, 26shirts.com. Currently down there, upgrading their website, but apparently by the time this goes up, the website should be live. The new one should be live. Check out their latest T-shirts. As far as we know, the Buffalo Volume 5 shirt 24 Hurdle Lab, which we talked about last week, which was featured on the CBS broadcast. Big ups to Dave Servey on that one. That one is still available. There's still the online fundraiser link over at 26shirts.com, benefiting the family that the T-shirt benefits as well. Now, with that being said, Week 5, the Buffalo Bills return back to, I almost said Ralph Wilson Stadium, New Era Field, to take on the Tennessee Titans, who are 3-1 under new head coach Mike Vrabel. Now,
I still affectionately call it Rich Stadium.
That's understandable. I mean, I know it's a different, but I still call KeyBank Center first.
I was alive for that era, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, you were. I was kind of.
I'm old. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Those of you following over from BLTD land, I tend to crack jokes from time to time. Here's an ongoing one. I can't have a podcast without saying this at least once, Ryan. Shut up, Ryan.
That's fair, man. Hey, speaking of that, I just remembered I got my flu shot today. I don't know why that's relevant, but I got my flu shot today.
I got mine too.
Well, I figured I went to the doctor for another reason, and they're like, "Do you want a flu shot?" And I said, why not? I haven't done it in like 10 years, so I'm not very smart, but it's okay.
Yeah,
I say that as we're on the podcast, asking you to trust my
trust your. Well, let me ask you this: you're such a stat guy. You have stats for everything when it comes to these podcasts, whether it's this or BLTD or when we had that original flagship show where I was pretty much drunk all the time. I had to with my co-host, but anyways, where I was pretty much drunk all the time. You even broke out some stats on that show, and I'm thinking, you just said you didn't get a flu shot for 10 years,
roughly. Yeah.
Break down the stats of how bad that is.
Well, I'm not gonna throw my mom.
I assure you, there is no fluoride in the flu shot.
No, I got to tell you what, though. I got to tell you what. Hear me out real fast.
Okay,
Before I married my wonderful wife, who is set to be a family nurse practitioner here in just a few months. She graduates in December.
Very good.
She
like you,
is
Mrs. Wolfe. Love you, Mrs.
fantastic.
Wolfe.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Awesome. She's awesome.
So my mom, and again, no slight to my mother, but when we were younger, we got the flu shot and we just all got really sick. And my mom just said, you know what? Maybe this doesn't work. And then we just never got it again. I don't know. That's at least what I remember. Maybe she'll have a different thought, but I've always thought that was the case. Like, hey, and it's logic. If you don't know,
You sure it was? You sure it was flu shot medicine in there? You sure it wasn't like nothing?
Maybe they gave me a shot for, I don't know. Maybe
they gave you B12 like Roger Clemens,
like the chemtrails or some. I don't know.
Okay. Anyways,
but
moving on.
Yeah, it was. I just never got it. So there's the story, and I decided to get it this time, and I'm going to continue next year. The same time, I'll get it again. But back to the football here. Now we kind of just lost it there real fast.
Yes, we did.
The Bills
Titans are coming to Rich Stadium.
Yeah, they are. The Houston Oilers are coming to Rich Stadium this weekend.
Very good.
The Buffalo Bills open as a 3-point underdog, which is a far cry from the last 2 weeks. Now Marcus Mariota is dealing with an elbow injury, which is kind of terrifying to think about. Earlier in the season, he's been effective when he's come back. Last we knew, he had taken a shot in the elbow. I believe it was the first game of the season, and he must have pinched the ulnar nerve or whatever nerve it is in your elbow. That's the quote unquote funny bone gimmick. Because he couldn't feel his I think it was his ring and his pinky finger. So he only had 3 fingers to throw a football with, but he was trying to,
Jonathan Pierre-Paul or Jason or JPP, whatever. I don't know. I can't, I made myself laugh with my own joke that I just lost it.
That's okay. He couldn't hold the ball the right way.
He plays with 3 fingers. There we go.
He couldn't hold the ball. He couldn't hold the ball the right way. So at that point in time, they obviously had to bench him, but now he's back. He's playing good enough. I mean, they're 3-1 at this point. They lost the season opener to Miami, but they won 3 straight against Houston, at Jacksonville, and home against Philly, which was a game. That was a damn good game last week. So, John, just real quick before we wrap this guy up, what are your thoughts for the Buffalo Bills heading into Sunday? What do they have to do in order to win this game? That
offensive line needs to show some semblance of, whoa, hey. Are we doing loud video here in the background? The Buffalo Bills offensive line has to show some a semblance of order, some kind of. I mean, give me sophomore in college effort at least. You got to do that because Mariota, he's here and there on occasion, but he can get the job done. He's mobile. He's accurate at times. I don't know about the injury and how much that's going to affect them, but they are on a 3-game win streak. But the Bills just need to show up. They need to take it easy and decide what team they're going to be. Are they going to be the team that comes in there and plays their hearts out like they do in Minnesota, like they did at Minnesota? Or are they going to be the Buffalo Bills of weeks 1, 2, and 4, where everything, where offense was anemic, defense, nobody cared, and it was miserable? So, the Bills just need to come and they need to take it from old Jets coach, Herm Edwards. They need to play to win the game. They need to have that mentality. If they have that mentality, just be yourselves. Go in there and act like you want to be there.
Hey, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Just Josh Allen come out with a renewed confidence. Maybe some home cooking will get Shady McCoy rolling. I mean, Tennessee's offense is not great statistically. Their defense is not great statistically. It's both middle of the road. Mm-hmm. But again,
this is a winnable game for Buffalo.
It is. The Buffalo Bills offense is like a performance enhancer for defenses, though, because the offensive line will just crumble and you'll be able to crush Josh Allen. But you know what? I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say the
Magic
Bills,
Johnson will be proud of you for that comment.
I'm going to pull out.
Yes, I just brought a Magic Johnson joke to Trust the Podcast. I'm sorry.
I'm going to say the Bills will pull this one out 21-17.
You're going to go with Buffalo in this one.
I'm going to try to be positive.
You're going to try and be positive. Have you gone now? Let me ask you this, Ryan, and I'm being. Have you picked Buffalo at all this season for any games?
No,
you have not. So you're doing this. This is brand new. This is you're just winging it. You're trusting the podcast.
We've picked the Bills all season, but this is the first time I picked them to win.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. When I look at the old GERE Network Pick'em, and I look at the different stats, 89% of the country, Ryan, has picked Tennessee, 11% Buffalo. You know what? Just because I don't like being with the norm, I'm picking Buffalo as well. I honestly think last week's, if that's a pride thing. You beat Minnesota, whom people were saying before the season was to begin that they were a shoo-in for the Super Bowl in the NFC because they got Kirk Cousins and his all guaranteed deal and all that. And you made him look like garbage. And you made the Minnesota Vikings look like garbage. And you rode that emotional high and you into Lambeau and you got slapped by the bad man. Marcus Mariota is not the bad man. So go back into there with that swagger. I think that if there's any sort of pride in their game, they're going to come out mad. They're going to come out aggressive. They're going to know that this is a winnable game. Josh Allen's probably not going to hurdle over anybody, but in the same, I expect them and the team to play angry. I've got the Bills going over, wrestling term, going over in this one as well. Although I don't have a score.
That's okay.
You want me to pick a score?
Sure.
10-7.
Jesus. Okay. That'll be fun.
It's gonna be a snooze fest, ladies and gentlemen. But I think the Bills will. I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting that they're going to come out there pissed off, and they're going to remind the Tennessee Titans of the Tennessee Titans.
That's fair. Hey, you know what? It is what it is, and we said it because we think it's true. So with that being said, there's really nothing else left to say. You can follow me at WolfeBLTD. You can follow John at DJCMoney on Twitter. You can listen to us, like I said, on Google Play Music, on Spotify, on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, also betterlivethandead.com. With that being said, again, John, I appreciate you joining me tonight.
I appreciate you having me. And I was waiting for I almost dropped the "You Are Not" because I was waiting for the "We Are Better Live Than Dead," and I was about ready to drop "You Are Not." So
hey, we'll do it this way. We are trust the podcast.
You are not.
We've never done that before. That's the first time. But hey, guess what? It doesn't matter. We do what we want because we own the podcast.
Woohoo!
Appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
Ciao, ciao.
Go Bills.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the GERE Network. IndyCard Media is your one-stop shop for quality designs at a quality price. They offer merchandising, company branding, event posters, custom clothing designs, and so much more. Check out their gallery of past designs by visiting facebook.com/IndyCard Media and tell them what you think. That's IndyCard Media, 337-446-4331 or IndyCardMafia@gmail.com. Tell them that we sent you. Again, 337-446-4331. IndyCard Media. Bring your designs to life.